Welcome to the GSD with Jenny podcast, where we talk about how to overcome all the stuff that gets in the way of getting shit done. Imposter syndrome, fear, money, relationships, networking, building businesses. We're going to talk to experts, or as I say, mavens, that provide practical and tactical advice on how to GSD. I'm your host, Jenny Buchholz, founder and CEO of Haven Creative. Now, I started my business with $300 in a laptop and grew it to a team of Haven mavens serving clients around the world and generating over 7 figures in revenue. We were named one of the fastest growing companies in Charlotte and 2024 Crowns of Enterprise Woman-Owned Business of the Year, and I'm incredibly proud of the success we've had and to be among the 1% of woman-owned advertising agencies in the country. But I still need help too. So I started this podcast with the intent to dive deeper into the things that hold us back from achieving our goals. So thank you for joining me on this journey to GSD. Let's get started. Today's guest is an off-road legend, trailblazer, and all-around badass. She welds, she fabricates, she races, and she manages 4 brands. Cora Jokinen is the president of Torque Masters Industries, which has 3 brands in the automotive and power sports off-road industry and 1 brand in outdoor camping and cooking. She's been a 4x4 club president, a Monster Jam Tech official, a Rebel Rally winner, and has taken on some of the toughest terrain in the Ultra 4 and King of the Hammers races. With a background in architecture, design, and engineering, Cora is a GSD leader, and she's here today to share her story and her expertise with us in business strategy, branding, and marketing, all around the industries that she loves and lives. Let's get started. Welcome, Cora.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Thank you for joining us. You have quite the resume here, so I want to start with your origin story and how you broke into the off-road world.
It was my hobby, and when I first started driving was the Nissan Xterra. When that first launched, I just remember the marketing was incredible. And I was into whitewater kayaking, I was into mountain biking and all that stuff. And that's exactly what they were marketing towards. And so my second vehicle was actually a Nissan Xterra. And so friends and we would go mountain biking, and I'm like, well, let's take the Xterra on the same trails that I'm mountain biking. And that's when I first started off-roading when I was 18.
Nice. I always wanted one of those Xterras when they first came out. I could not afford it. It was like my dream car.
Yeah. Well, I had some help.
Yeah. How did you end up acquiring Torque Masters Industries?
Yes. So in 2013, actually, sorry, let me back that up. My husband and I got into amateur rock crawling, and our title sponsor was Aussie Locker. And the owner of Torque Masters, which is the parent company of Aussie Locker, was in our local 4x4 club. So I hit him up for sponsorship, and we installed the Aussie Lockers in my Jeep, and we did competitive rock crawling, and that was 9. And then flash forward to 2013, we were at an event where he was at too, and he was talking to my husband about maybe hiring somebody for the day-to-day work. He was turning 70 that year and kind of looking to do less work. The whole ride home from the event, my husband and we were talking, we were like, what if, we took out a home equity line? Could we buy the company? And all these different scenarios. And I called him on Monday, the owner proposed that I purchase the company from him. And he goes, okay, let's talk. And then I go, oh shit, now what do I do?
Yeah, I do that a lot. I'll say something and go, oh, now I got to figure it out.
Yeah. So it took about a year of negotiations, and he was already in negotiations with 2 other companies that wanted to buy the company, and they were just machine shops. They had no passion. They were not into the sport. They didn't know anybody in the sport. And he had 3 daughters, and none of them were into it, but he kind of had a soft spot, and he wanted me to buy the company. So we
love that. Yeah. But you never owned a company before that, weren't already an entrepreneur.
No, I was an architect.
Yeah, that's just wild. I mean, right? The courage that it takes to just jump in like that. Were you terrified or were you excited?
Excited. And I do have to say that my husband was there every step of the way. And he was a business owner too. He had his own construction company for 20 years, and he came to work for us in 2017 full time. So that was
very cool. Yeah, that definitely helps to have someone else to jump off the ledge with, I guess, into entrepreneurship. And as being as successful as you are today, can you talk to me about what hurdles and things you've had to overcome in the last 10, 15 years or more?
Yeah, so I officially acquired the company in 2014. It was founded in 2002. So it's 20 few years old. And I guess when I first started out, the company wasn't a startup, but I was a startup. I needed to round myself out. And luckily, the incubator here at the University of Rochester, somehow they learned about me and the company and invited me to basically a mini business degree. So I did a 6-week program with them where we did a full day of training once a week for 6 weeks. And that really taught me like what a sales funnel is. I'd never heard that before in architecture. I didn't know anything about accounting. I did social media, but not like professionally. And so that really helped round me out. And then that, along with my husband, if I was like, what's accounts payable, honey? I don't know what that means. So he was there to support me while he was running his own business. And we tried to do both for a number of years until Torque Masters had grown enough that he could come on board. And that really helped us because then we could travel more, we could go to more shows and events and grow the branding more.
When you look back on those early days, how do you think that you were able to scale the business without ever doing it before?
Well, the former owner didn't do any advertising or marketing. And so for us, it had a great reputation, the brand did. But then there was another product line that was in development when I purchased the company. So I had to launch a whole new product line. And we decided to build a stock class Jeep from a wrecked Jeep and go race King of the Hammers, the hardest one-day off-road race. And we built the Jeep in 60 days. So
whoa.
That was a big launch for us, and it was super fun.
So there was really the guerrilla marketing route, right? You just got to build a crazy ass vehicle, get it out there. That's a lot of what Fab Fours did too.
Yeah.
I'm so
Jump right in.
Yes. In fact, so I saw in your resume that you have been in several of these races. Have you ever had an oh shit moment where something just breaks? Because I know you have to just fix it with whatever you have, right? Any stories in those?
Yeah, but I mean, that's what off-roading is.
Yeah.
They say trail fixes are the best fixes. You know, when all your friends gather around and we all scratch our heads and try and figure out how to fix it, that's part of the fun. That's part of the challenge. So I'm used to that, very used to that. It's fun.
So you enjoy the thrill of the unknown in that way?
Absolutely. It's an adventure.
Nice. So with all the different hats you've worn, because I know you were a president, I think, of a local 4x4 organization, and I introduced you as a racer, a welder, all the different things, all the different titles. Which role do you feel like has made the most impact on your life to date?
I guess being a business owner encapsulates so many different hats that one title alone covers pretty much everything we do and everything we do every day. So that's the biggest impact on my life because it completely changed my day to day. You know, I used to work in an office with a bunch of people, and now I can work from the road. I can work at a race. You know, now with Starlink, I can work anywhere. So it's pretty cool.
So let's go to, being a woman in this industry. Now, I have to say, for being in the industry for 20 years, I haven't really felt the pressure of being a woman being so different. I think I have a lot of buddies, so many guys in this thing. I've never felt ostracized or alienated. But what challenges maybe have you faced? And do you have any specific situations that have come to mind?
Sure. So as a woman in the industry, I've always found that if you know your stuff and you speak with confidence, people take you seriously. And that goes for if you're a man or a woman. You know, you can earn respect by knowing what you're talking about and having the knowledge to say, I don't know, I'm going to look that up and get back to you. So one of the biggest challenges I think that I see day to day is when I call people for tech support and I'm there to try and help the customer. And sometimes they're like, oh, can I speak to somebody that knows what they're talking about? And so I do get that a lot just because I'm a female, on the phone. But the one little trick that I discovered and I've been using for a few years now that works every time is when I call somebody back and say, hi, I'm Cora with Torque Masters, returning your phone call for tech support. And just adding that little qualifier on the end, they're like, okay, here's my problem. and then we go from there.
Yeah, that's funny because similarly, we've had customer service reps at Fab Force have the same kind of, they call in and then kind of get thrown when they speak to a woman, but the people in the customer service know more about the part numbers and how to install it and what it fits than anyone else. You'd be surprised, like you said, but just being confident and knowing what you're talking about, but being curious to find out if you don't is something that's applicable regardless of what industry you're in. So that's definitely great feedback there. What advice would you give a young woman who's looking to break into the industry?
Well, what was kind of interesting, so the SEMA Business Women's Network that I'm on the council and have been volunteering for 4 years, 5 years now with them, they hold a women's leadership forum every year. And this year, one of your coworkers was there and they asked a poll for all the women in the room, how many of them were actually automotive enthusiasts? And only about 10% of the women in the room were. And to me, that was very interesting because I'm an enthusiast. So there's women that want to break into the industry because it's fun. And then there's women that want to break into the industry because they're enthusiasts. So I can't really speak to the women that are just like, hey, I want a graphic design job and this place looks really cool to work. So I can't really speak to that. And I can speak for the enthusiast, and the enthusiast loves what they do. So they're initially going to, or they're going to be the best employees to hire, in my opinion, is somebody that's actually passionate about the product.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's an easy hire if you're an enthusiast and you're talking to a company and you love their product.
Yep. And I think back to what you're saying is it's having passion for it, the passion for the product, for the industry, for the people and helping others. If I were the first time of looking at going to an off-road event, and so, you're excited, but you're not really sure how to break in, what would be my first step?
I would talk to people. And when you're there, just start up conversations, ask people about them and their vehicles, and you have an instant friend. Everybody wants to talk about their stuff. So that's how you get the ball rolling. Ask questions and just enjoy the event.
What were your first off-road events that you attended?
My very first one up here in Rochester was like a mud bog in the back of some farm. There were a bunch of people there, and I was just like, I don't think this is my scene. And then I heard about a local 4x4 club. I went to one of their meetings, and everybody was so excited that I was a girl. I had a Jeep, and it was a pretty badass Jeep too. And so they were just like, what's your name? What do you do? Oh, you're a college student at the local college. That's so cool. And from there was just open arms, and I've been a member of that club for over 20 years now.
That's awesome. I mean, I started out very much not knowing anything about cars and just what you were saying, being curious and asking questions. But a lot of it was intimidating to me at first. So when I say like getting in a vehicle and just driving up the side of a hill or a sand pile, feeling like you're going to flip over, I was not comfortable driving. I was fine riding. It's pretty scary at first. Sometimes it's a little intimidating to break in, which is why I asked.
Mm-hmm.
So you also have in your bio that you consult on business strategy marketing. So you went from not running a business before to now running a very successful business. How do you help others in the industry do the same?
So the consulting I do is a very limited basis. And typically it starts with somebody that's a racer. And I do help with marketing packages because I've built my own, and I've received very good feedback from partners in the industry about my marketing package. So when somebody approaches me about a sponsorship and it's a big name, I'll be like, hey, I can also help with this, help them in the industry and connect them with people, just because we've been doing the racer thing for a long time and we know who to call for tires, who to call for wheels, stuff like that. So I pick and choose the consulting.
It makes sense. And I think that a lot of what we're doing now in marketing is these branded partnerships. So being able to figure out that relationship and how to build it is really important. But also on the brand side, even as we reach out to influencers, what is the win-win scenario where we can give product and they're going to represent the brand, and how does it all work? It's still something I think a lot of people are trying to figure out. Any tips that you can give in those areas for people that are maybe in that space working on influencer partnerships?
Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to Charlene Bauer. She used to do the Racer Marketing School, and my husband and we took her, I think it was like a 2-part lecture, because as a company, I wanted to know how to approach sponsorships when we sponsor people. And then as a racer, I wanted to know what to provide to the company in exchange. So that uniquely put us in a good spot because we know what we want to see. So when we talk to a company about product support, they know that we're not going to be dummies, basically, or, pollute their brand or their message. And so that's something to keep in mind is sponsorships are not free. You have to do a lot more work, a lot more hours than typically what the part actually costs. So just be prepared for that and be prepared to deliver what you promise. And I will say some of the best sponsored people that we sponsor are women. They typically go overboard and they deliver. And sometimes some of the guys we've worked with, they just change their mind, change their sport, change their passion, and don't always deliver.
Yes, I love my brothers in the industry, but some of them get very distracted and are not good with multitasking, I have found. So, which is why we often pair our influencers with an account manager that will help them get shit done, which is what this podcast is all about. So, you managing 4 brands and all the things, what is your GSD strategy? I mean, how do you manage all of it?
So, this technique or hack I've been using for, I don't know, probably at least 6 years, and it helps me get shit done. And it's very simple. I sort my inbox from unread, and then I write myself email reminders all the time.
You do. You send yourself emails.
Oh yeah, there's even like I do ... and then the note, because then I know which ones are mine. And even my husband knows, he does the ... for like, Cora, this is a task for you.
Nice.
But yeah,
you're not the old school hand note writer like
nope.
me.
My handwriting is terrible.
That's funny. But so tell me how the other brands evolved, because there are 4 under the one umbrella.
Yes.
Okay.
So the first was Aussie Locker. That was 2002. We released Torque Locker, which is the big brother, 15. And that was going through the patent process and in development when I purchased the company. And this is kind of funny. So the former owner had called it Raptor Locker. And I just thought the SEO was terrible on that, like the Ford Raptor. There's like a UTV that's a Raptor. There's RVs that are Raptor. And I was like, this is never going to work. And then I knew enough about branding that like I wanted like a 3x6 proportion for a logo, so it reads well and it's not like super long and thin. And then so I came up with Torque Locker because the locker works on torque. Like so to me it was very simple, and I launched it under Torque Locker, not Raptor Locker.
Smart.
And then the next one, another branding, let's say branding mistake. So when we came out with our axle shafts, I named them Infinity axle shafts because they have a limited lifetime warranty. So that sounds great, right? So when I went to trademark it, I got a nasty gram from Nissan. And I was like, okay, I talked to my attorney and he's like, don't even mess with it. Like these guys it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They'll just squash you. And I'm like, okay, I'm not spelling it Infinity like the car. I'm spelling it correctly, but they were still just like, nope. So now they're Torque Masters axle shafts. And then the last brand was a recent acquisition, which is Oris Adventure Cooking. And that's a scuttle type cooker that is highly transportable. It's great for on the trail. It's great for camping, tailgating, stuff like that. And I've used the product for the last 8 years, and our friend developed it. And I've been nudging him here and there that I love this so much. I want to buy your product line. And last year he was finally like, sure, fine. So we acquired that and we're slowly growing it. I don't want to scale too quickly because that's kind of unmanageable for the way that we like to live our daily lives.
Yeah, I have grown my business the same. I want to enjoy the life I'm building and be able to step out and play, which is also why I love our industry, because we as a family love it. So it just fits right into, enjoying our life while we also happen to be working. It's helpful.
So like 2 women's leadership forums ago, I went into the event with a goal of figuring out how to implement a 4-day work week. And that's something that I've been doing for at least over a year now. And it's really helped me balance stress. So I do 2 half days. Wednesdays and Fridays are half days, and I play pickleball in the morning. Nice. So I'm running around with a lot of retired folks that can still kick my butt. but we're running around, we're playing a game, we're full of endorphins, and the side effect is you get exercise. That's a really fun portion of my week. And I leave my phone in the truck. So I get at least 2 hours, no emails, no phone calls, no complaints, no customer service, no tech support, and it's fun. So that's
So
how.
important to have your boundaries and protect your peace. So do you have a 4-day work week for your entire team? And how many people are there?
So we have a pretty interesting structure. So all of the employees are contractors.
Okay.
So I sub out as much as I can locally.
Yeah.
And then if they mess up, they have to pay for it.
That's helpful. That's also how we scaled using contractors. We don't need to bring in all the talent at the same time. It doesn't make business sense. In fact, I think so many more business models are like that nowadays.
Right. And there's less insurance, less overhead. Like it's the way you can manufacture in the US.
Yes. So I was going to ask you that next too, is like what has changed over your years of a business leader? And obviously I see what's changing. How is that going to impact you and your business, do you think?
So we've been scaling up the machine shop and buying new machines, buying used machines, getting more automation, and it runs extremely smoothly with automation. We have more robots than people, like a lot more robots than
I
people.
mean, I think everybody will at some point, right?
Yeah, yeah. And if one of the robots has an issue or breaks a tool, it sends you an email.
How have you seen marketing evolve over the time?
Gosh, yeah. So as everybody, I think, will observe on social media, the trend towards video content. We've been doing video, and I enjoy editing video. So we've been doing that since we started. I mean, we're not YouTube stars, but we do installation videos. And every time somebody goes to YouTube to search for information, if you have that there, then you don't need to answer a phone call and answer the same question. So it's an investment.
Absolutely. Speaking of, I watched you drive on an inch of ice, and that was fascinating.
That was fun.
Yeah, so because we're here in the mountains, and I just went through that experience, and I was inching my way down a mountain on more than an inch thick of ice, and it was the moment. My vehicle held up really well. I was very proud of myself. And going back to that as a woman in off-road, I feel like it's really empowering when I can take a vehicle of my family safely from a place that people were not even trying to get on the road, and then down a mountain safely, or an adventure in new places.
Yeah, we're always up for an adventure and going exploring. And sometimes there's a washout or, you got to get through there. So that's when even just like casual off-roading or overlanding, traction and a locker is very important.
Yes, and the products that you make are probably going to save someone's life in a lot of ways. That's another piece to the industry that I feel like drives my purpose. And it sounds like yours as well, is helping others
Mm-hmm.
so that they can go out and explore and play.
Yeah,
Where do
absolutely.
you see the off-road industry going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think there's been a significant shift to overlanding. And even like a lot of the hardcore off-roaders are getting into overlanding because really it's more relaxing.
Yes, my husband's in the process of taking the rack off the back to put the overland rack on. So yes, it's been sitting in our driveway for a week, but yes.
Right, right. So we're definitely doing all the Overland Expo shows. The Oris, basically, because everybody has to eat, right? Not everybody thinks they need lockers. So I can bring Oris there and talk about, different recipes that I like to cook and this and that. And then the Oris booth can actually pay for the Torque Masters booth. And
Yeah.
Torque Masters, we do a lot of education about what lockers are, how they work. Ours are fully mechanical, so they're super reliable, which is what you want if you're going out and adventuring. And we don't always sell a lot at the show, but we'll sell after. So like people will think about it and do more research and then find out that we're the best in our opinion. And then they'll buy after the show. But for on-site sales, Oris is doing great. Everybody loves it.
Let's lean into that a little bit. What makes you the best?
Okay. So in our category, we're the only ones made in the US and we have the best warranty. So that's
Very
the
important.
best in my
Very
opinion.
important. Love that. So, with all of your leadership roles, all the brands, and through the growth, I mean, does imposter syndrome ever sneak in for you?
It did at first, of course, because I'm doing something new that I've never done before. But I educated myself and grew a thicker skin because, as an architect, I'm not getting yelled at over the phone because UPS didn't deliver that day and it's going to ruin their entire trip, stuff like that.
Yes.
But yeah, I've always been very confident and I've always been in places that women aren't always. So like I grew up playing ice hockey and I was a
Nice.
goalie. So, I played with the boys growing up and then played with the girls and went to college, played at RIT. And yeah, so my mom always said like I can do whatever I want. And she was kind of a rule breaker as well. Like she wanted to fly planes, so took flying lessons and used to fly before I was born. And yeah, I mean, parents always said, you can do whatever you want.
I think it's so many entrepreneurs that I talk to have a similar story about someone around them showing it was possible to kind of break through that imposter syndrome or those barriers until they themselves could see what was possible. So who would you say would be the one person that did make the biggest impact? Would it be your mom or someone else?
I think it would be my mom growing up and then my husband helping me grow this company. And he's not always, let's say, he does give tough love. So if he's like, well, you actually messed that one up, like he'll tell me.
Yeah,
So
you need that. I
right.
call that radical candor, right? You got to care personally, but challenge directly. I don't want passive aggressive. I don't want BS. Like, just tell me what to do.
And I don't want
Be
somebody
real.
that says yes all the time.
Yeah, I don't need yes people. Speaking of, on the team too, I don't need you to tell me my idea is good. Challenge me, bring new ideas.
Mhm.
And that's how we sharpen our sword and get better as a team. Are there any routines or rituals or things that you do now to, like you had mentioned, protecting your space, making sure you get outside and play? Anything else that kind of helps you perform at such a high level and doing all these things?
This one may sound silly, but like I get question fatigue. And so when I'm browsing social media, a lot of times they'll show you group stuff. And then a lot of times people are just asking questions, asking questions, asking questions. And so sometimes I'm just like, okay, enough with the decisions, enough with the questions. And one thing that really helps in the day to day is we have a meal delivery service. So it's called Green Chef. And I don't have to go grocery shopping and I don't have to plan our dinners. And then I get to cook dinner, which I enjoy very much, but I don't have to wash anything. I don't have to measure anything. So
Yeah.
I just put the food all together and then we have a healthy meal and a variety of food every week. And so that just makes life easier.
Good on you for recognizing that. I think it was so hard for me to, I would say, outsource things in my regular life because I felt guilty. Like, well, I can clean the house, so I'll just do it, or I can just cook and eat. But what you're saying, I think it was taking up all this headspace and all the questions. I was exhausted. So I started not just looking at where I could do that in the business, but where can I do it at home? And yes, meal delivery without having to think what's for dinner, that would drive me crazy. What are we eating? Where should we go? And I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I would encourage anyone that's listening, if you haven't considered what you can outsource in your regular life, go find out because it will just free up some brain headspace for sure.
Yes.
No, it's good. What advice would you give someone looking to buy a business or start a business, thinking back to where you were?
Okay. Yeah. If you're buying a business, you need a few important people. So you need an attorney to handle the negotiations and the paperwork. You need a commercial banker if you're going to get a loan, which is very hard to do. And you need somebody that's going to process credit cards if you're doing retail. And then you potentially need a commercial real estate agent too, if you're looking for a location. So what was actually pretty cool, I was looking to get a bank loan to purchase Torquemasters, and the commercial banker I chose just from the website. I was like, oh, she looks smart. And so I cold called her, and then her and another commercial banker took me out to breakfast, and they tried to explain the system and how it works. And then they invited me out to the Philharmonic, and she was like, oh, I'm just going to get a couple other ladies to come with us. And then she told me when to show up, and it was before the restaurant opened. So we were going to get a bite to eat before the concert. And then the owner of the restaurant comes over and just gushes about our banking. And he was also a customer of hers and just telling me all about this bank and how good they've treated him. And then all the other ladies show up, and one of them was the SBA local loan officer. One of them was a credit card processor. One of them was commercial real estate, and one worked for an attorney. And so we just sat at this big round table. We were the only people in the restaurant, and we networked. And that was a very cool experience. And afterwards, I was like, man, I'm the fresh meat.
Yes, I was going to say that was the best sales strategy I've ever heard. Put all the players in the room, let them tell you
Yes.
how great they are. I'm like, I need to figure this out.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's helpful though, because already as a business owner, but we look at, maybe acquiring another agency or whatever. I do feel very afraid of making the wrong choice. But I think about, well, I've bought a house before, I bought a car before, like, getting the best deal. How do you know? How do you know if that multiple is the right multiple on whatever they're trying? Is that you're saying the attorney helps you with that, or?
yes. Yeah. So when I went to purchase Torque Masters, I hired a big accounting firm to do a valuation. And so I had like 7 years of financial history, and they did their whole valuation, came out with a book like this thick with all sorts of charts and all this stuff. And I paid them like 10 grand to do it. And then
God.
I presented that to the former owner, and he basically told me to go pound sand.
Yeah. 'Cause it wasn't, let me guess, it wasn't valued at what he wanted.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then the bank is like, well, we only think it's valued at this much. And so I told him that, and he was like, well, I'll hold the loan, and this is what I'm looking to get out of it. So
then months go by, or like how long was the negotiation period when you're like,
year.
yep, we're going to make this happen?
Negotiations and closing took a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to do it, you're in it for the long haul, and then you're making a big investment. And during that time, are you still doing your other job?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And then I had to tell my former boss, I'm like, hey, I'm buying a company. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to be out of here at some point. Then he told me how disappointed he was that I was leaving the field of architecture. And then he offered me more money. And then we negotiated, and I became a contractor for him for as long as I could. So I actually got paid more hourly, and he dropped me off his insurance. So
Well, that worked out.
yeah, it did work out.
I think back to it, starting my company, I basically was pushed off the ledge. Like I had to start because I just at the time didn't have a job. So I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm scrappy. But you walked into this willingly over a course of a year and just set this up. I mean, that takes a lot of courage and get shit done mentality. So congratulations for sticking that out and then being able to grow it in the space.
Yeah. So far I've tripled our gross sales.
That's
and
insane.
6 patents.
Tripled?
Yeah.
And when you said from the beginning, a lot of that was because you didn't have any advertising or marketing at the time.
Right. And we brought in new product lines.
I would just like to say that for everyone who thinks marketing is not important, for the people in the back, marketing and advertising. I feel like marketing is the first budget that gets cut. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
so right now you are primarily B2C.
And B2B. Yeah,
you are B2B.
Distributors too.
Do you feel like the B2C space, are you doing what I see a lot of people, you're just having to spend a ton of money to stand out in that space when it comes to advertising?
We are definitely more of the guerrilla advertising.
Yeah.
So I'm not spending money on magazine ads. I only do one, but traditional marketing is too expensive. In my opinion.
No, we definitely have shifted away from that, but it seems like it's definitely a pay to play in the digital space to try to stand out. And then that's been incredibly competitive and hard to kind of keep up and see where it's going, because even with, AI search, you're searching for a product, the AI summary comes above, and now you're having to fight harder for that top ranking and the paid ads and just a whole new world of spend. We're
I also think the age of our website helps too, or our domain. So we've gone through a couple different websites, but the domain's been around for a long time. And that I could get like a monthly SEO report from our website company, and like they're telling me how many clicks and top search words and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be it's still important what you mentioned earlier, providing useful content when it comes to videos and the how-to. I mean, it's YouTube University. Everyone's going there to find out how to do all of this product. So being the best brand, ambassador and experience through that route is definitely how I've seen people stand out. So you've already figured that out though.
Yeah, my husband actually has a little one that he likes to do. He leaves Google reviews all the time, but he typically tries to get like our Jeep in the background of the photo, or he's wearing our brand on his t-shirt.
I love that. Yeah, just small little ways to get the brand in there.
And he'll be like, look, this one has 500,000 views of our Jeep. next to the ice cream shop.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, it's a scrappy world out there. You have to be creative. And otherwise, like I was saying, it's just ridiculous the amount of money and larger brands that can just throw money at things. It's hard to compete. But you mentioned it earlier. I mean, relationships and the influencer partnerships and being on the road, being an enthusiast and already loving it is definitely, I think, trumps, anything else, because that's the connections in the community overall. Okay, wrapping up, we have a GSD playlist. I'm going to put you on the spot. It's okay if you need a minute. What is your get shit done song, or maybe your favorite off-road song? What would hype you up? What would that pick one song be?
I'm currently on a yacht rock kick.
Yacht rock.
That's more of like my Saturday relaxing, go on an adventure music.
Fair. That's fair. Is there any one particular song?
I'm blanking on it.
Okay. I feel like I can never remember song names either. And then I'm just like, I have the tune in my head, but I can't think of the name.
So I would say like the quintessential yacht rock song for me is either Sailing or Africa.
Yes. There's so many versions of Africa too that are out there. They're actually like a drum and bass version that I like, which, funny enough, I was driving the Bronco in a Fab Force commercial with that song on. Cora, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Thanks for listening to GSD with Jenny. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. For more ways to GSD, you can also find me on LinkedIn at Jenny Buchholz, where you can sign up for my Maven Mindset newsletter, or follow me on Instagram at Maven Jenny. Until next time, go GSD, Mavens!